I just want to say, you guys are doing a great thing. It's such an uncomfortable topic to talk about, especially for a guy, young guys in their early 20s. And, I'm glad that, I could tune in and, listen to you guys.
Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
God's work, Joseph. God's work. That's what I hear.
God's work. That's what it's about, man.
That's what people are. That's what people are saying on the internet. That's what we're doing. God's work, brother.
You're doing God's work. Exactly. Among other things.
Yeah. Welcome to the broadcast, people. This is the Hair Loss Show, The Bald Truth. Phone number, we are live, 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. How's the comb over today, Joe?
Pretty good, Cuck. I'm liking it. I tied in.
It was great. I went to the barber yesterday. Call this guy up, let him know I'm coming. Right? He's an older guy at this point. Every time I get to his shop, he's sleeping in the chair now.
Okay.
And I think he can tell based on the haircut. I'm just kidding. But I wake him up. I'm like, listen, I don't want to give his name out. We got to keep him around. Like, I'm willing to pay his medical bills at this point. Whatever it takes to keep this guy alive. When I started to go to him, he was younger than me.
Wow.
It's like 25 years.
That's wild right there. That's what puts it in perspective. Wow. That's crazy.
Guy once had a heart attack. I flipped the F out.
The guy that cuts my hair, no.
I had to find common law's person really was good, but I essentially had to walk this dude through it. It's a big shop with like a lot of hot women getting their haircuts there. And I am giving him loud instructions because there's like music playing. And I'm giving him loud instructions about how to just maintain the look that I'm not bald in the back. Guy took his time.
Can you try to hide my bald spot? It's a very special thing. I don't want anyone to know.
That's exactly what here's my problem is. I'm letting everyone know. And he's telling me, obviously I'm not wearing any paint when I go in there. And in his mind, he's like, when you walked in, I had no idea that you were losing your hair. Whatever you're doing. I'm like, that's partially going to be up to you now, brother. No pressure. You got to keep this sham alive while my barber recovers, and I hope that he does.
You know what's funny about hairstylists is I've seen on different social channels where people in the hair loss industry that want to do some sort of make some content. They talk to their barber or they talk to their stylist and well, you should know because you deal with a lot of hair. These people know jack.
They don't know anything
about hair loss. They know nothing. Sweet F all. Good story, or I don't know if it's a good story, but relevant story. I've been going to this old Chinese lady for years where, I walk in.
That's why it looks like your hair's cut by chopsticks, brother. I could say that now.
Ni hao. Exactly, yeah. And she starts laughing because my Chinese is terrible. And I look at it and I say, short, long. She goes, okay. And that's it. That's the only, discussion we have, except for some other broken bad Chinese I have. Does a pretty good job.
She does a great job, dude.
But the other day, she wasn't available, so I thought, you know what? There's a men's barber shop in the mall where it's just a bunch of guys, towel over their shoulder, with a bunch of guys, sitting in the legit barber chairs. I thought, I just need the back cleaned up. I'm going to give these guys a shot. So I go in there, and there's this old school style barber. He's wearing a New York Yankees hat. He's actually from the East Coast of the States. He's got a little accent. He's actually from Baltimore, and he talks a little like that. And he had no clue what I was talking about when I was talking about strip scars and grap. No clue whatsoever. I wound up staying there an extra 25 minutes educating him about what the hell I was talking about after he cut my hair, which he did a good job. Pretty happy with it. But it just reminded me, it's like, they don't know anything.
Dude, my barber knows it all. He is 80 years old. He wears a Justin Bieber wig like when Justin was 16. This guy is totally aware of the tragedy of hair loss.
That's because he's dealing with his own issue.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm trying to express to you, Joseph.
But not because he's cutting hair.
No.
And that blows my mind.
When I was doing my interviews, when I first moved to California, that was one of my first questions.
Yeah. That's good.
You guys don't believe it. I called probably 7 places, and I had to stop into 2 just to make sure. And when I saw this guy in this glorious Justin Bieber wig, and he has different colors, I was like, this guy gets it, man.
Yeah.
This guy gets it.
Say no more.
Yeah.
Say no more. Dust off that chair, buddy. I'm
Yeah.
sitting my butt down.
I was like, this is the place. And I remember my friend who I grew up with, and guys, we'll get to your calls in a second, who moved out here. He was in the business as a writer and a producer. We grew up together. And he lived in the area at the time, which was Studio City. I would drive all the way to Studio City to get my haircut. And he would meet me there. He's like, dude, this is the craziest barbershop I've ever been in. There's like, I'm sitting next to like a 50-year-old, I was young at the time, a 50-year-old, like, Colombian woman with dye in her eyebrows, waiting for her appointment.
Dye in her eyebrows.
Yeah, like dyed hair and dye in her eyebrows. You're sitting there while I'm getting my haircut in this crazy guy's place. But you know what? He understood me. He wasn't trying to style my hair in the way that he thought would look best, like these young people do. He listened to every word, and I walk out of there and I'm not bald. So who wins?
Hey, by the way, Jay Jones in the chat room, how's my volume now? He was saying that your volume's louder than mine. I just cranked mine up. I noticed it was a bit low. How's my volume compared to Spencer's?
I could try to bring yours up here a little bit, but I don't think I can. That's all the way up.
Okay, now they're saying that sounds good. Okay, awesome. Piero Scalisi, ciao. Welcome.
Okay, guys, the phone lines are open. Give us a call, 888-659-3727. Joe brought something to the table for our entertainment, so let's take a listen. Maybe you could explain it.
A little bit of backstory. So what's funny is last weekend or last Friday, we were talking about Jude Law and how he was openly embracing his hair loss and praying to God that he doesn't lose any more. And someone on online, our friend Brian, mentioned that he thinks it looks like he's had a little bit of work done, maybe just to maintain that little whiff of a forelock that he has. I can't disagree with that, because when you look at the hair that he has in the forelock now, it does look suspiciously terminal as far as the strength of the individual hairs coming out of that area. So I think maybe there's I haven't really done a deep dive on it, but I think maybe he has. And I do know that some celebrities have had surgery to maintain their existing hairline,
Yeah.
even though their hairline is greatly recessed and looks like they're losing their hair. It's still part of their persona. That's how people know them. So they've had surgery to reinforce that, not to alter it. So I can understand that, and I think that there's merit to that guess or that assumption. But today's celebrity, a lot of you may not know who he is simply because you're way too young, but Dennis Miller, who is, in my view, one of the most intelligent comics working today. He still does stand up. He was one of the earlier SNL update news anchors on Saturday Night Live, and he did a good job. I think it was before Norm Macdonald did his stint, which is one of the best of all time. It was either right before or right after Norm. I can't remember which. But it's been fairly known, and he's talked about it in the past, where he has talked about having a hair transplant. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he went to Bosley. I could be wrong, but I think I recall him openly stating that he went to Bosley.
I'm pretty sure that he did.
Yeah. And he's one of the examples that I've thought of in the past where it's like Bosley, like even back in the 90s, not every doctor at Bosley was terrible. There were some that were doing some pretty good work because his work is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
It's always stood up to scrutiny. So that aside, he was recently on the podcast with Dana Carvey and David Spade, and the discussion turned to hair plugs, as Dennis was calling them, and it's a pretty interesting conversation where he even mentions he thinks that they're falling out. And I immediately thought of you, Spencer, because you're always talking about how hair transplants will fall out. So I don't have video. It is audio because it's a podcast, but it is on YouTube as a video. So there's no moving pictures, guys.
Before you play that, I just want to correct you for the record. I don't say they're going to fall out. I said they can. Not that they do. I said that in time, the hairs can miniaturize if less DHT-resistant hair is not placed in the area. That's all. I don't want people to think their hair transplants are going to fall out.
Okay. All right. He clarified. All right. So let's see if we can fire this up. Hold on. Okay. Do we see that?
I'm just going to let you fumble around and see what happens.
Thanks so much. There we go. All right. I can't. Oh, wait. Let's do this, and I'll just fire that up. And here we go.
Good, man. What are you doing?
My hair looks good today. Why are we on fucking camera? Jesus.
I know. He's got volume. He's got lift. He's got
you
something
too?
going on.
Jesus, I'm sitting over. I look like...
Okay, here it goes.
look at my hair. Everybody else looks good. I was the first one in on plugs, and they're not working for me.
We'll do a whole thing.
We just had Joel McHale on.
Yeah.
And his hair looks great. And he fully admits he's got more plugs than the last 2 minutes of Carson.
Yeah.
Jesus. It's your joke.
That's a Dennis joke, a class.
How many times do I do Dennis jokes?
Are we on the air, by the way? Should I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was on the Tonight Show one night after I got my plugs. I was talking to Jay, and we had a fallow moment, as it were, because I had nothing to plug. So ironically, I said, "Hey, Jay, I just got hair plugs." He's, "Nah, you didn't. Hair looks great." And I said, "No, Jay, I'm telling you, I got hair plugs, and I'm healed up now, and I want to show them off." So I went up to the camera, the number one camera, and put my head down. I said, "I've got around 5,200 plugs here," and came back, and Jay said, "You're not kidding, are you?" I said, "No." And the next day, I got calls from some of the most famous craniums in the world asking me where, I won't betray their trust, even though some of them have passed on now, but saying, "Where did you get your plugs?" And they said, "Do they have a back door?" I said, "Yeah, but why use a back door? You just go get hair plugs if you need hair plugs." And the guy, my doctor, eventually called me when I needed some more, and he said, "You're comped. Don't pull coin in my town. I've gotten so many, recommendation heads off you."
You reorientated the skulls of several hundred men in Southern California. And that is if you have your legacy as one of the all-time great comedians, but this legacy we've heard about today, helping people with their appearance, their self-esteem. I'm calling myself happy. And I'm glad this was
well, like anything like plastic surgery or something, you notice the bad ones, but there's so many people that have different things they've done that you just would never know. And they just go, "That guy looks pretty good."
Yeah, Ellen Burstyn always looked great. I consider myself now in retirement, I consider myself not a life coach, but rather a life assistant coach, where I don't have anything. I don't speak to the press on a daily basis. I have nothing to do with the overall organization, but I consider myself the strength coach for for
I
our
hired a
listeners.
life assistant coach, a little cheaper. I just stole your joke, switched it, and it's in my act now.
Remember, we
I don't
used to
think you
call
can-
that bit surfing, where somebody jumped on a bit. I had that song on my show where you go, 2 tags on every bit.
Yeah.
Oh, they're waxing up a premise and taking it on down to the beach, bit surfing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe we should
That
edit
happens.
this
So
out,
if
right?
comedians are together, I think
I guess so. Yeah.
the rule is the unwritten rule. Like if you start a bit, just you're talking and people kind of tag it.
Are
just
they
in
done yet,
conversation.
Joe?
Okay. Well, apparently it keeps going, but he does mention in passing. He doesn't go into great detail with it, but he does mention in passing that his plugs are falling out.
Yeah.
And he keeps referring to them as plugs, which is amazing to me. But it also shows that he's not one of these guys, one of these very rare celebrities that did their own research. He just uses the common vernacular everyone's been using for 50 years, plugs, or 60 years plus, calling them plugs. But you look at his, like I did a search on what he looks like now. It looks a bit thinner, but keep in mind that he was never bald to begin with. And then he had surgery. He said 5,200 plugs, which that's impossible. He didn't get 5,200. Maybe 5,200 hairs. That's conceivable. But even then, probably not.
Well, to my knowledge, I think he had about 3 surgeries.
Yeah. Well, I know at least 2, but yeah, maybe 3 for sure. And so I think that it's not so much he's losing his grafts, so much as maybe they're miniaturizing like you were talking about, and maybe the native hair that he had already before any of his surgeries was also thinning out a bit. So, it's a common perception where people will say after they've had one or multiple surgeries, my hair transplant is failing or it's falling out. Well, no, that's not really generally how it works. It's just you got more miniaturization, you're getting older, maybe you're not taking the medication like you used to. Native hair is also miniaturizing. So there is it's not an iron shield against further signs of miniaturization as you get into your 60s and 70s.
Well, also a lot of
It's
these
going to
older
happen
guys
regardless.
here in Hollywood especially are getting on TRT in their 50s and 60s. And they are brainwashed into believing this is the only way to maintain your testosterone levels. And especially people who are predisposed to hair loss, like Mr. Miller, they really all of a sudden they speed up their progression.
Yeah.
That's just
the
reality.
And the interesting thing about him is he's not one of these celebrities. Speaking of maintaining their existing look, that's what he was doing. He never had any sort of hairline lowering, or at least nothing that was dramatic in the least. If he had any, it was extremely minimal, and he's just maintained the appearance that he's had since his early days in stand-up, because he always had a high hairline, from what I remember. And even when I was watching him live on SNL back in the late 80s, he always had a high hairline. So hats off to him for that, not making a huge mistake. Apparently the doctor he had with Bosley and apparently Southern Cal at the time did a really good job and had good judgment. And I thought it was interesting about comping any other surgeries, because Dennis Miller brought him so much business. That happens more than people think. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting, and definitely food for thought. Or
I just hope Spade didn't do a lot of talking about his work and bring his doctor.
I don't think he did.
A lot of patients, because
I don't think
he
he did.
absolutely lucked out with the doctor that he went to.
Yes, he did. I agree 100%. But
I saw him the other day on another podcast, and I mean, look, I think we're the same age, me and Spade.
Yeah.
He may be a little younger.
He
than
looks
me.
good. Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, his hair held up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on behind
it's-
there, but for the most part, it held up.
You talking about Spade or Miller?
Spade.
Yeah. Well, I think he's covering a lot up with the styles he's been sporting, because he does a lot of the comb back, comb over type of look.
Yeah.
And it seems suspiciously dark every time I see him. It's not blonde like it used to be. It's several shades darker into the brown territory.
Well, I mean, he's also getting older. I'm sure most of his hair is gray by now. I mean, he's got to be. He may be younger than me. I don't know. He may be older. I think we're the same age.
Well, every time I've seen him the past couple of years, the hairstyle itself has drawn my eye, because I used to do the same thing, and it was covering up the thinning in the back. So, nothing wrong with that. Just saying that it's a well-crafted.
I'm just
illusion.
filing it away. That's all. Every time I hear something like that come out of your mouth, I just file it away.
Well, wait till I start talking about fibers and makeup. That's when you file it.
Guys, please call us. Phone number is 888-659-3727. We'd love to take your calls. This is a call-in broadcast. This is what we're here for. We are live. We do this every Friday on Joe Tillman's Hair Transplant channel. And we want to take your calls. And guys, thank you for calling in. I'll take it in a second. But we have one more line open too. So 888-659-3727. We want to provide people with perspective, not just two guys yammering on about whatever. You have a question, we can do our best to answer you. Your questions and your stories may be very similar to other people who are tuning in. So that's why I still do this thing live after 30 years. It's a lot easier for me to get a guest in here besides Joe. Just do a podcast, throw that up, have it edited, and have you guys watch it. I did a podcast earlier. Guys, hold on, 888-659-3727 before this broadcast. And this podcaster was talking to me about that. And he's an interesting guy. And he basically said, his words, in order to get any attention, you really got to dumb things down. And Joe and I have been speaking about that for a long time. And I noticed that on social media, that we had to do that. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it would be easier, believe it or not, to get relatively well-known people and some well-known people to come in here, talk about their hair loss. And maybe I'll do that. I talk about doing that. But I really only do this to take your calls so that you guys have a platform where you're not just typing with your thumbs. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, caller. Caller, can you hear us?
Sorry, man. I have you on mute. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. My name's Oliver. I'm from the UK.
Oliver from the UK. What's
Hey,
happening, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I am not bad.
Pretty good. What's going on?
Wonderful. So first of all, love your work, man. You've really changed my mind on a lot of things. So I really appreciate that, first of all. But a little bit about me. I'm 24. I've been losing since 17, probably progressed up until like 20, probably 20, up until like a Norwood 2. And then by 21, I was a Norwood 3, and I've currently sat at that for quite a while now. I've started to progress slightly into my crown and a bit into the midsection as well, just some very small amounts of thinning. But I work within a clinic, and they've offered for me to get my hair done. I just want a brutal opinion on what you think I should do, because I've shaved it down, and I'm still insecure about it, and I've had MSP done, and it does the job, but the end goal for me is hair. But I'm happy to be patient. I also still want hair, and there's that young person inside me that wants to be impatient,
Did you say that you work in a clinic? Did I misunderstand that?
No, you heard that
Or
correct.
you're working with a clinic? Oh, you do work at a clinic.
No,
which
I work.
one?
I'm not going to share that on live.
Okay, that's fine.
Just in case. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a good
that's
good
fine.
call, brother, man. Don't share anything. All these clinics are secretly listening to this show, or they see me online, and next thing you know, you're calling for help, and you're not gonna have a job. So that's smart.
Be calling us to help you find another one. No. So, no, I was just trying to clarify this. So you work in a clinic, and you shave your head. You've had microscalp pigmentation, and
Yeah.
you want our guidance on what to do next as far as your ultimate goal of having real hair on your head.
Basically, yeah, that's the main
Okay.
thing. Like, I've spoken to our consultant, or sorry, our surgeons at the clinic, and they've mentioned, they've said a max session, and to my understanding, a max session could be from 3,200 to 3,700 grafts. So it's a lot for my age, and I'm aware of that. It could be more for a max session. I know you could go up to 4,200 with that.
Okay. And you're 24. What's your hair loss pattern?
So I'm a Norwood 3, kind of bordering onto a 3V at the moment, or a 3 vector.
And your medical regimen, finasteride, minoxidil, PRP. What are you doing to fight your hair loss?
So I've used finasteride in the past when I was a bit younger, wasn't consistent with it, and then did a course of dutasteride quite stupidly a couple of months ago, reacted very quickly and stopped to that. And then I've been consistently on 0.5 milligram of finasteride every day for the last month. I also supplement B12, vitamin D, and then zinc as well. Try and keep my diet super clean, don't smoke. Yeah.
I think that's where you're going wrong, brother. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm trying to be not funny and not interrupt Joe at the same time. Anyway,
Drink more.
no. Being 24 years old, being in the position that you're in, seeing surgeries being performed on a daily basis, probably selling surgeries, right? That's what you're doing?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, you see how desperate people are. You see the reality of what you do for a living, which is fine, especially, if people are being fully informed. But I do find it actually really smart of you and a little intriguing that you're calling the program to talk about your situation, being in the position that you're in. My question to you is, did you find me through Instagram or did you find us through Joe's channel?
I think I just scrolled past you on Instagram, and then I've just delved in.
Okay.
I've looked at all of the guys that you kind of, is the word endorse, or kind of connected with, in terms of the people that you post. And I've just been, my mind has just been totally opened, and the way I deliver consultations now is completely different. I will tell a young guy that you're not getting a hair transplant if it's not the right thing to do now. Yeah, I'm not here to ruin lives.
I'm glad that
Nice.
you found me and you found us now, and I'm gonna be blunt with you as well as I would with anybody your age. I know the hair transplant is currently on the table for you, and I'm sure it's not going to cost you anything because you work for the clinic. But I do find it interesting that the clinic you're working for is offering you so many grafts, given the way you described your hair loss and the fact that you kind of just got back on finasteride. I mean, my thought process is always, all right, you stopped it for a long time. You didn't do well on dutasteride, but you didn't really give finasteride a real chance. You've been able to maintain about a Norwood 2, 3 for years. You're just progressing a little bit more now. It's really possible you can get back to where you were when you were holding on to that 2 pattern. And that could happen in a year. And you may not need surgery.
So I've got to stress, I'm sitting at like closer to a Norwood 3V at the moment. Like my frontal temples and like the corners have bridged mostly back to the midsection.
Well, here's the thing. You're
Like
guaranteed
it's
to
very
walk
far down.
around looking a little effed up for at least the next 6 months if you have surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed. However, if this drug works for you in the next 3 months or so, you might see a little light at the end of the tunnel. So instead of like dealing with potential shock loss, the ugly duckling phase, the fact that you've had your head basically cut open, you might actually slowly get back to where you were before you've reached this point of anxiety and concern. And so I just think that, surgery is just a last resort. And you may end up worse off after it always. You may end up better off, especially since you're on medication. but you've started the process. Once you start the surgical process, there's no turning back. There's no, I'm one and done. You will always need more surgery. And there's a lot of physiological reasons for that as well, not just psychological reasons. So go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, I'm curious about your S&P. Did you have, like, you're shaving your head now, so you had all those areas that were thinning out. You had all those areas filled in, and I imagine that you had your hairline created with S&P. Is that an accurate assumption?
Correct. It's built up to a very strong hairline. So that's why when I'm thinking about surgery as well, I'm going to have to get some of this removed to build up something more conservative.
There you go. Yeah. That's what I was afraid of, because no young guy I know, and few older guys I know, when they have S&P and they include that hairline in the equation, will go for something that's conservative, like they would if they were having surgery. So, the idea with S&P is you won't run out of ink. You can always go in and do like an aggressive hairline, because donor supply is not an issue. You just order some more from the manufacturer, right? So I was assuming that would be the case, and I'm sorry it is, because it means it's more work on your part to have that removed, and that involves laser removal, which kind of potentially presents its own set of issues, depending on the laser that's being used. If there's any sort of scarring that will result from that. I've not delved in that arena at all over the past several years, but I used to be heavily involved with S&P, and I would caution you to move forward very carefully with regards to removing some of your S&P, because if you're going to be speaking to a company that advertises themselves as routinely removing this type of work, insist on meeting former clients so you can see for yourself how it looks, because what you don't want is, you don't want to poison that soil, as it were, for any sort of hair transplant in the future, should you so decide to actually have one. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I'm really glad that you've kind of taken what we preach and applied it to yourself and to your own consultations. I think that's super important. I'm very glad to hear that. But with your case specifically, I think that you said that you've just started on Propecia. I think that, or finasteride, if you're taking generic or name brand, you're not in a position to consider this surgery that your employees are offering you until you've been on it for about a year to see if it's actually going to do something for you. Because if you're one of those people that it doesn't, one of the few people that it doesn't do something for, you are setting yourself up for probably more surgeries than you might be planning on due to continued loss. So medication first, see that through. I wouldn't even bother with S&P removal unless you just want to get rid of it. If you're tired of it, take it in steps. Stick with the medication for a year. See how that's working out for you. If it's working to your benefit and you want to move forward with surgery, then look at step number 2 with the S&P removal. Do your research on that, find the right person, let that heal up, evaluate, and then you can look at having surgery so that, where the grafts are placed, the area will be as healthy as it can be for those grafts to thrive and grow as you want them to.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Just regarding what Spencer said as well, just into taking finasteride or Propecia and taking that for a period of time and then the hair coming back to what it previously was, it's not going to come back to any sort of satisfiable level, is it? But it's going to...
I don't know.
You'd be surprised, brother. And also you'd be surprised. There are guys who, it's good that you're on finasteride, because you definitely, and if you had no side effects, because for the long run, you will at the very least, most likely, slow the progression significantly and maybe keep what you have for a long time. The chances of regrowing hair now, they're significant. I mean, you have a good chance, especially given the fact of your history and that this is relatively recent, even though you started balding at 17. But if you potentially wanted to add and talk to your doctor about this, oral minoxidil on top of it, I mean, I've seen miraculous results for those who are willing to take these drugs. And so you may be in a position still, because you're young and because, you know, your hair loss is relatively young in a sense, meaning you've only been losing hair for 8 years or something like that. I've seen total reversals at your age, you know, with medication. Maybe not finasteride alone, but I've seen some significant reversals with finasteride too. I was an example of that when I was 29 or 27, whenever I started, where I had much more crown loss and I had thinning sides also. The entire scalp was starting to thin. First thing I noticed after about 3 months was the overall quality and thickness of the back and sides of my scalp. And I started to notice the balding area, the thinning area on top, filled in completely. I mean, that was just a complete fill-in. And my hairline that was receding, it didn't get any better, but it's basically stopped for years. Now, I've definitely lost ground over the last 30 years, and I paint my bald spot now, but I still have a lot of hair there, as Joe will attest to. So I'm just saying, you know, I was an example where I could not get on finasteride. From the age of 21 until whatever age I was, 27, I think, didn't exist. I didn't have that option. And I was balding for 6 years that I knew of. And I reversed it basically completely and regrew a lot of hair. Didn't last my entire life, but, you know, it slowly began to progress, you know, whatever, a decade after I started the drug.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's long-winded, but, you know, what you're seeing online and maybe even what you're seeing in your clinic or what you're being told in your clinic, you know, we're all different physiological beings, and I was a good responder, and I've known a lot of guys who are good, and I mean a lot. I mean more than 10 in my personal life who are really good responders to this medication at a young age.
Okay, just stick at it then. 12 months on meds, and then see where it goes from there. Yeah.
I mean, look, if you need this surgery psychologically and you think you really believe it's going to help you, then I'm not going to tell you, you know, there's no absolutes here. But the most logical move and the smartest move generally is to wait and see. You just got back on medication. And being that you're definitely going to live looking worse for at least 4, 5, 6 months after your surgery, why not just at least give it that amount of time and give yourself the chance to look better without getting cut? And if it doesn't work out, surgery is always going to be there for you.
Absolutely. I'm aware of the long-term effects. Yeah, I've watched your content enough to know now, and I've done all my research. So yeah, no, I'm happy to wait. I really appreciate both of your advice this evening. And yeah.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Look, you're very young. Realize that. I know you don't. It doesn't feel that way when you're 24, but you are. Hair loss. This is the long game that you're playing right now. Once you cross over that threshold, there's no going back completely. But management is really possible, and you may be a person who can manage it with drugs, drug therapy, and maybe eventually hair transplant surgery. But you want this to be a protracted situation for you. And you want to be positive. You want to keep gaining ground as opposed to maybe gaining some and losing some. All right, brother?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a lovely rest of your show. I appreciate it.
Good luck. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
888-659-3727. I wonder how many suckers he sold surgery to. I'm just kidding, caller. You sound like you're a very caring guy, and I'm glad that you found this content.
He actually does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to help
it's refreshing.
people. All right, let's take this call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. How's it going? This is Tim from New Jersey.
Tim from New Jersey. What's happening,
Tim.
brother? No dirty talk today,
Nothing
right?
much, guys. Oh man, we'll see. We'll
All
just
right.
have to see about that.
Okay.
How you guys
No
doing?
promises. Pretty good. It's been a good week.
All right. I'm glad to hear that. I'm just tuning in now, so I missed everything that's happened so far. But it looks like you got a haircut.
Oh my God.
Spencer.
I did get a haircut. Thank you for noticing. Please don't insult me, though.
No, I actually had a question about that. That was going to be my first thing I was going to ask. So, like, as a fellow guy that uses Dermatch, right? Like, I haven't gotten a haircut in some time. So, like, do you have, like, a special relationship with your barber where, like, he understands your whole situation and, like, he ever understands that, like, when he cuts your hair, it looks a lot different than how it's actually going to look after you style it?
You did miss the beginning of the show because that's exactly what we talked about. And I have I have a very special relationship with my barber. And I was going to say something dirty. Here's the thing. I am very lucky. Okay, it doesn't look that much different. Meaning that, yeah, there's more coverage with the Dermatch and tightens up the part, and especially in this area and right in the back, there's more coverage. But because he leaves it longer back there, he's able to, like, if I really comb my hair in a specific way and it doesn't move, it almost looks like 100% coverage because it's long in the back. Okay. So the way that he cuts it, when he shows me the back, I look like I have a full head of hair until I move my hair. And then when I move it, I'm Joe. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so no, he has a I keep him around like he's 80 years old now. We were talking about that. He was younger than me when he started to cut my hair. So I want to make sure he's healthy. I get anxiety if he's not well. Shit like that. So I do have a very special relationship with him.
Like, do you talk to him about, like, finasteride and shit like that? Or
we do. I mean, he's an old Italian guy who wears, like, a Justin Bieber wig. Not that Justin Bieber wears one now, but I mean when Justin Bieber had a full head of hair. So he understands the whole hair loss situation. He's very empathetic.
Your barber wears a hair system?
I don't know if you would actually call it a system, per se. I would probably refer to it as a wig.
Yeah. Yeah. There's systems and there are wigs.
Yeah.
For sure.
Is it undetectable?
It is full on detectable. Like, you could see him from the back.
That's hilarious.
On a balcony. And you would know he's wearing something on his head.
Jesus Christ. I mean, does this guy understand, like, that his hairpiece is not fooling anyone? Or
I don't really know, and I don't think he cares.
Jesus.
That's funny.
I really don't think he cares. I mean, this is a guy that has a really great outlook on life. Old school Italian guy, loves this country. Loves living in Southern California, even with the nonsense and the taxes and all that stuff. I mean, this guy came from, fascist Italy as a child.
Well, I guess their loss probably wasn't that big of a concern then.
Well, it's a concern because he wears a wig, but, I'm just saying he's got a good outlook on life.
That's good.
Interesting. Well, I'm surprised you would get your hair cut by a guy that's wearing such a detectable system,
What makes you, why would you be surprised about that?
I don't know.
I find that kind of insulting. Dude, I interviewed this guy, I saw this guy. Yeah, okay, he's wearing, he's a little flamboyant. What are you going to do? He's wearing scarves on his neck, too. What am I going to say? But when I explained to him what I needed when I was 34 years old, whenever I got here to California, he totally got it. And he's like, we'll take our time. You could talk me through it. I know exactly what you need, but, he was very patient with me. Trust me, if I took pictures with this guy, that would be great Instagram content.
Yeah, you could talk to him about his system. You know, ask him for tips.
I'm telling you, man, you balding guys are so cruel.
Oh my God! Come on, ball busting is like one of the main aspects of the show.
No, I get it. You know, man. I'm busting your balls too, brother.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the main reason I was calling you guys today is, to discuss my favorite topic, which propecia side effects.
Okay.
Right on.
So, I don't know if you remember what we discussed last time, but obviously, just for the audience at home. So I'm like a guy that's like attempted finasteride a couple times and usually end up quitting due to side effects. So, I usually get like sexual side effects in the first month. And then eventually, I found out that they could be transient, while most of the advice that I had received previously suggested that you should stop if you're getting side effects. So I've been pushing through, and I managed to get through the sexual side effects this time. This last attempt at taking finasteride started on December 9th, so I guess I've been taking it for a month and a half. So I pushed through, and like the sexual side effects went away. And then I felt like I was getting mental side effects, which I discussed in our last call.
Yeah.
And I kept taking it, and honestly, it kind of feels like those went away. So much, I was hoping that I was good to go.
I know that people are going to hate me to say this, but that's pretty much the status quo with most people who experience side effects in this drug. But what do I know?
Yeah. But, you go into like the average. I mean, I've spoken to like 4 doctors about this drug in person, right? Like, they all told me that if you get side effects, to stop. Yeah. They didn't say anything about lowering the dosage. They didn't say anything about seeing if you can adjust. One guy even told me that if you get, one doctor even said, if you get side effects and you keep taking it, that's how it becomes permanent. A doctor told me that.
Let me tell you something. There's a lot of really dumb doctors in this world. When you get to my point in life, you realize, and especially when you're dealing with them, thank God the people that I actually work directly with, they're kind of on the smarter side, but Jesus Christ. Some of the least emotionally equipped people I've ever met in general, and they are very dogmatic in their thinking process. They're not open-minded. They practice medicine in a very specific way that makes them the most comfortable. And just like anybody else, they're susceptible to social media nonsense. It's pretty alarming, really.
Yeah. So
you still living by that highway?
Oh my God! Maybe I was just taking a walk.
I was going to ask if you're a hobo.
No, I've got a home. Yeah. No, I got an apartment. But
for those who don't understand, hobos are it's an old school reference for the unhoused. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, okay. Young people use that word sometimes too, believe it or not.
I wouldn't believe
I saw
it or not.
Black and white movies. I saw it in some black and white movies, I think.
Young people? How would you know about young people?
Like the laugh track was supposed to play there, But in any case, I had a question about. So obviously, the other side effects we've discussed, they've seemingly been transient. I kind of had a question about like gyno-related side effects.
Now you're getting tits.
I don't think I've. What's that?
Now you're getting tits.
Well, that's one way of putting it. So I guess my question is like, all the other side effects went away, but I feel like I've been noticing like some puffy. Not like I'm not claiming I grew tits or anything, but like some puffiness. I'm gonna get torn a new asshole in the chat for this. So I'm not even gonna look, but some puffiness in the nipples, and possibly like some sensitivity. So I guess I was just wondering, like, in your guys' experience, like, if that starts to happen, what's the likelihood of it being transient versus, like, you're fucked,
I don't even want to answer that question. I'm going to let Joe take that.
Well, it's a tough one because I mean, what does it mean to where it might be sensitive? Like they're either sensitive or they're not. I don't understand that.
Well, they're sensitive. They're sensitive sometimes, right? Like it's not like a 24/7 thing. But
Okay.
yeah,
Well, then that makes sense. Yeah,
Maybe,
I get it. And when you say puffy, when you say puffy, do you need to actually buy a brassiere, or is it just something that is it just moderate?
And shit.
Pardon? Come again?
Like I don't know how to phrase this, but like the nipples get erect more often.
Okay.
I don't know how to put that.
That's fine.
But obviously,
just
that's
like you did.
Supposedly a side effect, But according to the studies and shit, it's like 0.5% of getting gyno from.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna put a halt to this. Let me get this straight. So you're telling me that are you thinking that you have puffy nipples because your nipples are becoming more erect more easily, or do you actually have puffy nipples and they're becoming erect more easily?
I'm telling you, like they'll just randomly get erect. Yeah.
So when they're not erect, there's no puffiness. Is that what you're saying?
That's a good question.
Because you do know when your nipples become erect, essentially there's almost like a blanching effect where you could lose a little color from the nipple as well, and it kind of becomes puffier all around. It's almost like when you're cold and you get out of a bath or a shower, or however you decide to clean yourself. So if you're telling me that for some reason your nipples are becoming erect more often, and that's when you notice the puffiness, I don't want you to call the show anymore. So no, but dude, I mean, I have to tell you,
like it's a problem.
I love your calls. You contribute some very good radio to this broadcast, but I have never spoken to anyone who's had every single potential side effect and then thought about what else.
Sound crazy to you guys.
What else? And then thinking about what else I can get, and then getting it.
I'm being dead serious.
What's with the zipper? It sounds like you're zipping up a body bag or something, brother. Come on.
That's why he's down by the tracks.
Yeah, but I mean,
here's how you test it.
I don't know.
Don't think about. Take a look at your body when you're not erect, when nothing's erect. Okay.
Right.
And you could take images. You could look at your side profile or whatever it is. If your nipples aren't puffy, you're not dealing with gynecomastia.
Yes.
Well, what about like the sensitivity issue?
What do you mean by sensitive? They're sensitive like erogeneously sensitive, or they hurt?
No, not in a good way. No, like slightly uncomfortable, I'd say. So I noticed it in particular last weekend. Like I just kind of noticed like more so my right nipple, like kind of rubbing up against my shirt. Like it just felt a little bit uncomfortable. Which
that type of sensitivity can be a transient or an adverse side effect. It does happen, but usually it's not going to happen after a month and a half of use. Again, I'm not a doctor. That's usually not the case.
All right. I mean, I was under the impression that like in the first couple months, like the side effects could still be considered transient.
Yes, they can be. But normally, the side effects will show up within the first few. I mean, again, I'm going to use this word twice in the show. It could be protracted, I guess, and you could notice side effects a few months later. That's unusual. Usually, it's within the first week or two of dosing that you notice adverse side effects. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the norm. That's on average, or that's probably beyond average. That's like probably 98% of the people that suffer with side effects.
And based on my experience, most guys that just push through will eventually see those dissipate. Man, that background noise is killing me.
Damn.
This guy's unbelievable. He's like zipping up bags.
Chopping off heads. Throwing them on the train cars as they're passing by.
Caller, you disappeared.
No, my bad. I muted for a
is.
second. There's a lot of background noise. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I can't tell you whether or not it is definitely an adverse side effect, but you can definitely watch your body. You could, if you start to feel your nipples actually swelling, if you notice the glands around your nipples becoming tender or swollen or puffy, once you get off the drug, that's 100% reversible. If you let it go too long, then that's not reversible. But that's pretty. It would have to be pretty significant for you to, to get to that point. You would note, like, you're getting gyno. Let me pull back on this drug.
Right. Yeah. So that's why, I feel like it's kind of a tough decision to decide what to do, because this side effect is one of the ones that potentially could, not go away if I stop.
Well, here's the good news, and this is not to tell you to do this, but if for some reason that was the case, gyno surgery has come a long way. It's a very simple type of liposuction. I mean, you could always have side effects, but especially if it's not a lot of gyno, that could be removed. I'm not saying to wait for the gyno to develop, but if for some reason you take a nap on this for 6 months, which I don't think you will, given the conversations we've had. It's something that it's not going to cause you. It doesn't have to cause you permanent distress. However, you'll know if you have gyno. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You will have your nipples and the glands around your, in your breast tissue will be more sensitive. They will become puffy, and it's reversible once you get off the drug. And that the reversal could happen in a few days. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. But just keep an eye on it.
I gotcha. Well, that was my plan pretty much. My plan was pretty much, I'm hoping it's transient, right? Hopefully this is the last side effect I deal with. So I was just going to keep taking the drug and kind of keep an eye on the symptoms.
I think that's a reason. I
plan.
think, again, not medical advice, but I think that's a reasonable approach. And you can take pictures of yourself, and you could ask your girlfriend or whoever, look, am I getting tits? What do you think? And if there's a slight pause, then, you get off the drug.
Yeah. Sounds like a pretty good approach.
But it does sound like, again, and I could be neurotic about things. Trust me. It does sound like there is, not that any of this is not real, but there's also a little bit of neuroses around it based on your real experiences and also based on stuff that you hear about. And,
right.
But this could be the third and final side effect that you have to push through if it is a side effect.
Yeah.
Right. Well, personally, I don't see how it could be 100% in my head. Because, let's say, okay, this is going to sound honestly
Hold on, callers, hold on. I'm going to get rid of this guy in a minute. I'm just kidding, caller. Go ahead.
But, let's say a couple days ago when, one of my nipples was kind of hurting a little, sensitive in a slightly uncomfortable way, right? So if I, rub one nipple and it feels normal, and I rub the other one and it hurts, how the fuck could that be in my head? You know what I mean?
It probably isn't in your head. You may be having a transient side effect, or it may have nothing to do with the drug.
I look at it like this, though. The fact that you got to question whether it's a side effect or not, it tells me that to me, it wouldn't be a deal breaker of any sort. It's very mild, and I'm not trying to speak for you. I mean, it's just that's what it sounds like. And if it was a true side effect, you wouldn't have to ask us. It'd be like, hey guys, I'm getting puffy nipples. It's consistent. They're not going down and coming back every once in a while. It's not one day on, one day off. It's solid, obvious. Can see it in the photos. Can see it through my shirt. That's a very strong indication that it is a full-on side effect. I was asking you a question earlier about what do you mean sensitive. all this sounds like it's extremely on the low end of mild. And my opinion,
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but my opinion is push through, and this'll disappear in a month, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Just don't change
Another
anything.
month from now.
Have you
man.
gotten
Yeah.
the hairy tongue side effect yet, by chance?
Oh my god. Yeah. No.
Now, listen, brother, we're here for you, of course, and I like you said, we bust balls on this show.
Yeah.
You're asking good questions, and if you're feeling something, I'm sure it's real. It may be associated with the drug, it may not be associated with the drug, but it sounds relatively minor as far as the way that you're explaining it, and something that you can kind of wait and see and watch.
I agree with that. So you guys don't even think it's time for like a titration or anything like that?
You just said you agreed with it.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
No, my opinion was push through. Just stick with it.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're taking
right.
how much are you taking? Half a milligram?
No, it's a milligram. It's a milligram. I've been taking.
Okay. Full milligram. Yeah. And you're taking it
Yeah.
daily or every other day?
Daily.
Okay.
The good news is
the
dick is working again. Your mental issues, not your obvious mental issues, but the ones that you discussed earlier. Those
the ones that were due to the drug.
Yeah, those have dissipated, so that's good.
Yeah.
And now you're worried about one nipple that hurts a little bit and the fact that it gets wrecked a lot. I think you're doing pretty well.
I mean, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I know it probably sounds like, I feel like in the back of your guys' head, you think I probably have like nocebo side effects or something.
I'm not thinking anything. I'm just glad you called the show that we have some content.
I don't even think so.
So one last question, if you guys don't mind. So I had a question about I was curious about the whole 2% number that, everyone talks about in terms of side effects. So, like when they say that 2% of people get side effects, is that like measured a few months later, like after people would have had time for their transient side effects to go away? There's 2% remaining that have side effects? Or is it 2% that get any side effects at all, and a lot of those people it goes away? And it's much lower than 2% that could potentially, could take it.
That's a reasonable question. And according to the clinical data from Merck back in the day, it was actually, and I think it was over 1,500 patients that were in the initial clinical trials. Forget about the data they left out. But the data that was available, it was 1.5% of those on the placebo, in the placebo group, had adverse side effects. Some of them were transient.
Right.
Some of them were whatever. They watched them. And 2% of those on the drug had these side effects, meaning there's a 0.5 differential. That's why, at least initially, the side effect profile was considered extremely low in the physician's desk reference. They watch these patients for an extended period of time to see what's going on. That's how clinical trials operate. So they would know if it was happening early on during the process or 2 or 3 months into the process. So overall, the average was 2% on those who took the drug, 1.5% on those who were not on the drug. Initially, whatever long-term adverse side effects that may have been reported outside of the trial, the claim is that they were suppressed. I'm not saying that they were, but that was also a very small number. I think it was like, don't quote me on this. I think it was 2 patients, and they never followed up on those patients.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to worry about that. Like, my logic there is like, that would be like not driving a car to work in case I die in a car accident or something. Like, I can't worry about that. You know what I'm saying? Like something that happens to like fucking 1 in 10,000 people or something.
Yeah, well, that's
my mindset of looking.
That's a healthy way for you to look at it since you're taking this, this poison. I'm kidding.
That's my mindset.
Yeah. Jesus. That's what these people on Instagram say. They're so pissed off when I talk about Yeah, I've been on the drug for 30 years. What do you want me to do? It's my experience. I don't have the right to talk about my experience and the experience of those who call into this program for 30 years and the experience of those who treat patients, hundreds of thousands of patients, not like 10 patients, over a period of 20 some odd years. We have the knowledge base. We have the data points. That's just the reality of things. So anyway, I'm going on a rant there. But listen, I think you're going to be okay. But I'm very interested in the next problem, though. So don't forget to call us next week.
Well, I'm running out of side effects. You know what I mean? I'm going to start making some up.
Believe me. Trust me, you're going to find one.
You'll come up with something.
Yeah.
You'll come up with something.
All right. Well,
brother.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
And
All right.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
See it.
Joe will take that picture of your nipples if you want to send it to him, by the way.
Negatory.
All right. Hey, let's take a call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Charlie from L.A.
Charlie from L.A. How are you, brother?
What's up, Charlie?
Good. I just first wanted to say to the last caller, I had a potential gyno scare maybe like 6 months ago, and I called into you guys. I've been on finasteride for like 5-6 years, and it ultimately was just like I had a sensation one day, and I just couldn't stop checking and touching it and irritating it, and it just totally like was this like a vicious loop that I got stuck in when it totally was not gyno. So it was just as some potential something for the guy to think about.
No, listen, that's not uncommon. I really work on my mindset, but I am naturally that person. I have OCD. I do, I'm a recovering hypochondriac. It's just, that's my nature. But doing what I do for so long and listening to so many people's stories and also kind of working on myself, I just realized, God, all that worry and time wasted and, obsessiveness, it takes so much out of the reality of what's going on. The time to worry is when shit really happens. But that's not the way most people's minds work. So
yeah,
I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm glad it turned out okay. So what's up?
Yeah. Well, there's two things I wanted to talk about. One, I wanted to tell you guys, I called in, I can't remember how long ago, not terribly long ago, but it was a minoxidil journey from topical to oral, and just wanted to update that I'm in a pretty good place on the oral minoxidil. It was a rough transition that was going from no visible hair loss besides the dip in the topical efficacy that I was starting to not really love, and
to dumping hair.
Went through a full effluvium, and that was crazy. Never had gone through a shed like that, but it was weird because I was shedding while I was growing new hair at the same time. So it was like the oral minoxidil was working pretty quickly, even just small hairs, but still working while I was shedding like crazy. But it stabilized, and I'm still slowly working my way up to 2.5. I actually started at just a quarter, and now I'm up to 3/4. So I'm just like every I think 3 months I add in another fourth. And yeah, it's been good. I've definitely, speaking of anxiety and everything though, I had so much anxiety around this drug after my doctor told me that I am okay on it, that she's not worried about it, worried about me being on it. And I still, and so much of it is just I had to cut out so much of the content I was watching about it, because just one video of somebody speaking ill of it, and then the comments of these people like, I was taking this tiny dose and my heart almost exploded, and I was rushed to the ER, and like then it just then every time I take it I get a little anxiety attack, and it's just like I feel like I've moved past that, and I have a good just kind of, this is a relationship between this drug and my body, and that's it. And
that's actually very well said. That's very well said, and I wish more people, and sorry that you had to go through the roller coaster of emotions to get there, but that's the way that I feel with everything that I do in my life. And that's the way they feel with these drugs. I mean, we all have different physiology, and you have to go with the averages. And the people who, in general, who have positive results from anything, they're not online. It's rare that they are. Not like me and Joe, who come out here like idiots to talk about this stuff. And if they do, they're usually selling something. So the most stuff that you read is going to be negative stuff. And honestly, the people that comment online in general, no offense to anyone who comments online, I mean, generally, people that take the time to comment on, especially the negative stuff, these are usually unhappy people in general. And some of them, believe it or not, I knew one guy who was doing something on Reddit for a long time, essentially found out that he was sending people to a guy to get botched because he got botched.
That's right.
And he was saying something positive stories about this doctor, and these guys were getting butchered. I mean, this is the craziness that's online.
Sick.
A lot of sickness, man. Just read Joe's comment section. So I'm glad you have a good attitude now. I'm glad things are working out. I'm glad you got past that effluvium. Honestly, that's what keeps me from taking it. Because, I don't want to jinx myself, but things are, as far as like...
I mean, you can rock a baseball cap for 6 months, right?
Yeah, I can. I wear a baseball cap all the time. But, I was blow drying my hair, and I was looking at I have retrograde now, so the nape of my neck is a lot thinner than it used to be, which is interesting because 10 years ago, there were people who wanted to use that hair to transplant. There was basically saying how thick that area is on my scalp, and it would be so soft, and you could really shore up your hairline with it. These are top doctors. And I was drinking with them. I'm like, you guys are crazy. There's no way I'm going to do this. And if I would have done it, I may have lost 20% of those grafts or more.
Now, I have a question about an effluvium, though. Is the severity of it linked to the dosage?
Spencer, change the camera, please.
I don't want to change the camera. I want to show them to see it. Go ahead. Sorry, man.
If you started on a really small dose and had a really slow titration up, would that effluvium, if you experienced one, be more severe than if you just started with like 2.5 right away?
You mean, would it be more severe if you started with a higher dose, or you're saying?
Rather than like if you started with a fourth,
it may have been more severe. I don't know. I mean, it really, the smaller dose was effective for you, so that was essentially putting your hair into an anagen phase, forcing out that telogen, or forcing it into a telogen phase to grow new hair. So
right, but I think that was in my case. I think that was partially also due to dropping the topical. Was the big shed as well?
Probably, yeah.
So it was like a double shed. It was like
you got a double
new
whammy.
Anagen phase. Also, yeah, it was like a. But I'm saying in your case, if you were to start, because I know you've been toying with that idea, if you were to start on a really small dose, would that, if you had an effluvium, would that be a smaller effluvium than if you were to start on a higher dose right away?
That's a hypothetical that I just cannot answer. Logically, the higher the dose, the more effective the drug, and the
bigger the shed,
potentially, more severe shed. But and like everyone's physiology is different, like we were saying. So it's possible that a small dose would cause a shed. It's also possible, and some people don't shed. I could be a person who doesn't go through an effluvium, or it's delayed effluvium, where I get growth right away. And I'm like, holy cow, look at this. And then boom, a year later or 6 months later, I'm going through a freak out. So, here's the thing about oral minoxidil that we're learning, and that, it's interesting because we've known about it forever. There were doctors prescribing it, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever, in the industry. I had access to it. But now that more people are doing it, I think we're getting better data points across the board. And we're seeing people who are having really excellent results, even with these effluviums. In the end, they're getting incredible results. So in my mind, even if I wait 5 years to the point where if this progresses, or if I'm noticing, you know what, I'm really getting some bad retrograde. I can't comb the hair in the back anymore. I still think that I would be able to get regrowth and bounce back if I took this drug and it worked well for me. So I'm going to be cautiously, taking a look at things and monitoring myself before I get on the drug. And in my case, it's not because of any adverse side effect fears. It's because of an effluvium fear.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And then I had one other question. This is a really specific question in regards to FUT scar.
Okay.
This might be, I don't know if Joe is still there as well, but I'd love to hear both of your.
Yeah, Joe's back, and I think he's paying attention.
So I believe you can. Some surgeons, if a patient prefers an FUT but requires a fairly small amount of grafts for their procedure, I'm pretty sure you can do like a portion of a linear excision, correct? Like or is
any,
it or it,
well
or
a portion of any excisions? Any linear excisions, linear excision. It's not a portion.
I mean a less long excision, rather.
Yes.
As opposed
to, let me just go and tell you that a smaller number of grafts required means a smaller strip. Simple as that.
Right.
Shorter, thinner.
And if somebody, like, I guess this is probably like from doctor to doctor, or surgeon to surgeon rather. But if you, like, I don't know, do some doctors take like half of a strip, like half of the head of a normal strip that you would see in length?
Well, yeah. Well, okay. So let's look at my own case. All right. So all my surgeries, most of my FUT surgeries were, all of them were under 2,500 grafts. Right. So by today's standard, that's fairly small. Low end of mid range for a strip surgery, but I've seen strip surgeries that are well north of 7,000 grafts in one shot, and those require very long strips. The width of the strip is quite wide. I've seen up to 3 centimeters wide and 35 centimeters long. That's a big ass strip. Whereas mine was maybe 20 centimeters long and 1 centimeter wide, or 1.5 centimeters wide. The number of grafts being taken out is relative to the size of the strip that's being cut out. Right? It's all relative. So if you need, say, 500 grafts and you prefer to have a strip, then that would be a very short strip and probably a centimeter or less in width. And then it's pulled together just like any other strip, and it heals up, and minimal to zero tension on something like that. So, depending on how you heal as a person and the doctor that you're going to, being very experienced, it should be a very minimal donor scar. If you need more grafts, it'll be longer and a wider strip that might lead to a wider scar, again, depending on your physiology and the doctor you choose. I've seen countless wide strips result in a very narrow donor scar once it's all healed. So, there is a correlation with the size of the scar as it heals in width, but there's very little correlation, assuming that it is done properly, but there is a direct correlation with the length.
Right.
So if you want like just a small number of grafts, it'll be a short strip.
Is it sensible to say, like, well, okay, if from ear to ear is, let's just say, for example's sake, is like a foot in length. And you're taking, I don't know, 1.5 centimeters in width, and let's say the patient wants half of that length, but it will, and even if it results in 2 centimeters in width, and it's a 6-inch from.
I understand what you're saying.
Occipital to one ear.
So in other words, you don't want the strip line, the incision line, to go up on the sides of the scalp. You want to be mainly in the occipital region in the back. Is that right?
Either that or on one side or asymmetrical.
May I ask why?
I came across a photo of somebody that had, it wasn't even a U shape, it was a straight line, so it looked more like it was an accident, an injury over a surgery scar, just by the mere shape of it. But because it was from ear to occipital on one side, I looked at it shaped very short, and I was like, this doesn't look like a surgery scar. This just looks like, or it just didn't look like a transplant scar in this specific example.
Because of the placement, because of where it was located.
Yeah, the location and the shape. It wasn't a U, it was straight. And I'm just so curious if that's like, is that something that people can request as well? Or is it like they'll always have to do that more of a dipped U shape? Or is there some wiggle room within the sweet spot to cut
Well,
straight?
honestly, it depends on... It's kind of a tricky question because, I mean, you'll find a doctor will do anything you want if you look hard enough. But what you need to understand is when a doctor is taking out a strip, if they know what they're doing, like they truly understand the physiology of scalp tissue, what they're doing is they're checking for areas of tension that are higher or that are greater or lesser as they move along with their incision. And so, there are specific areas of the scalp that are understood to be tighter, such as the mastoid processes, which is behind the ears and then kind of up in the corner. Like if your head was shaped like a box, it would be the back two corners. That's where the mastoid processes generally are. And that's the area where you generally have most of the complaints about a wide donor scar, because that's the tightest area. And a lot of doctors, relatively speaking, did not understand this being consistent from one patient to the next, and they would just routinely go in and not adjust the width of their strip that was being removed, and they always have these. I mean, sometimes it would turn out fine, but if they had wide donor scars, that's where it would be. And I've seen it happen with the best of them, where even if they are compensating for that tension, and they would go into they would narrow the width of the excision, it would still come back and stretch out a little bit. So what I'm getting at is the shape of the excision can depend to varying degrees on the amount of tension that the doctor finds in that area. So if you find a doctor that says, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll just do a completely straight strip," there will be no deviation, no curving whatsoever, I would question if I want to have that doctor even work on me, because they're doing what you want rather than what they see as being the right thing to do.
Right.
Okay, so I think that I understand your logic in that, and it makes a lot of sense actually, because if you see someone that has some sort of long scar in an asymmetrical manner, like meaning it's on one side but not the other, or it's on one side and not in the back, or what have you, that does make sense. Where people in the know, if they see it, they might question, well, maybe it's not a hair transplant scar. Like, okay, maybe it does justify what he's saying as far as, you know, he got attacked by, you know, two guys when he's on, you know, vacation in Mexico. Who knows?
Yeah.
But in the end, if you're willing to have a shorter scar but a wide, or a shorter incision but a wider incision to get the same number of grafts, I would really think that through, because you are increasing the likelihood of stretch back. Now, a 2 centimeter wide scar, it's fairly wide, but it's not crazy. But again, it depends on your laxity. Like, you may not have the laxity to even take a 2 centimeter wide scar or strip. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean,
so on paper,
it's funny,
it sounds fine, but there's a lot of variables that you're not accounting for.
When I was a kid, I hit my head in the back, literally where the donor zone, like where the sweet spot would be.
That explains
and
your questions.
I have a tiny scar there that it's probably like, you know, a half an inch of a scar, but it's literally right on the occipital, and it's a pretty good looking scar. So it gives me some good. It gives me some good, and just by feeling it, I have some good laxity. But just some reassurance for the future if need be. But just was curious about that.
Okay, well, I would speak to a doctor that performs FUT on a regular basis, that believes in it. You know, doesn't try to get around that they offer it because they're afraid that you're going to, you know, shun them, or that in general people are going to shun them because they offer FUT. It is a thing. I would talk to doctors that openly talk about it and are proud of the fact that they perform it and can demonstrably show that they are good at what they do. You know, they can see, you know, they can show you consistent results, and talk to them about this and see what they say. Like, if this is something you want to go through with and you want this special approach to it, I don't see a problem with it, as long as you don't expect perfection with that straight line requirement.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, I would even posit that a straight line would look more artificial than something that isn't straight.
Yeah, a super jagged FUT maybe is the move.
See, now it sounds like you're more concerned about the scar than you are about the outcome of the, you know, for the hair placement. It's like, yeah, I know it looks pluggy as shit, but man, isn't this scar cool? You know, maybe do some juggling of your priorities there, and you know, talk it through with your doctor, and I think you'll probably find something that works for you.
For sure. No, I appreciate the answers and the insight.
No
Thank
worries,
you,
buddy. No worries.
All right.
No worries.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate the chat, and have a good rest of the show.
All right, brother. Take care. Thanks for the call.
Good question.
Thanks.
We got some time. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. It's the Hair Loss Show. I'm glad Joe was able to answer the caller's unique question.
I'm glad I was too. I like those questions.
It's like a puzzle for you. It's like a hair transplant Rubik's Cube.
It really is. It's fun. I like the surgical questions.
I think the whole idea of hair transplant surgery, it really is like it's a puzzle that young patients especially, but all patients really. I mean, I heard this guy. Well, I'll finish my thought before I say this, but they don't realize it has to be figured out. Even physicians who are in the field, you know, you have so many variables. You have hair characteristics, skin characteristics. You have genetic characteristics. Then you have the real issue that this is a moving target. And then you put into the equation whether or not the person can tolerate medication or is willing to take medication. And then you have, okay, well, the person is at this point now, even if he takes medication, do I place the forward temporal angle, at this height based on this measurement that I learned about at one of these trade conferences? Or do I freeball it based on my own aesthetics? Mm-hmm. These are all things that have to be considered. That everyone just thinks, hair transplant, check. Let's go to this guy. Here's the price. We'll get it done.
Yeah.
But there's so much involved. I did a reaction video to this kid, and I wasn't being overly generous. I was being honest about his result from a Turkish clinic after 5 months. And I stated clearly that, honestly, coming out of this part of the world, his hairline was relatively appropriate, given that he went to a high-volume clinic, given the fact that, in my view, he had too many grafts placed. It was unnecessary for him at his age. He's only 32 years old. But at the 5-month mark, I think, given his expectations and based on probably limited research, he's probably pretty happy. So why make people miserable online in their comment section if this guy is going to be happy with his result, at least for a while? And what I opted to do is talk about because these people are just bugging me. And you're probably getting this too, Joe, now that you're more on Instagram. Everyone wants me to review these influencers' hair transplants. I'm like, I don't want to review their hair transplant, but I thought this was particularly important to do in this case because everyone was busting on this guy when, in fact, this was one of the better early results for a clinic of this nature. I'm not saying there weren't problems. I pointed out the issues. And there'll probably be issues along the way in this guy's life. But in general, this is one of the better results coming out of a clinic like that. And I think that's important for him to know as well, because he may be second-guessing his choice based on everyone saying, oh, this is unnatural, this is this, you should have gone here. They didn't implant enough grafts, they didn't do that. None of these guys know what they're talking about. So I can't imagine being in his position, reading these comments, and thinking, did I make a mistake? I wanted, since this is being pointed out to me, I wanted to give this guy an honest assessment. But I digress. There's a well-known influencer, got like over 1 million people on YouTube, and he has a pretty fair following, reasonable following on Instagram. He's answering people's questions, and he answered a question that was presented by a physician, an older guy, older, not that much older than me, but who was dealing with several medical issues. I think he has insulin resistance. I actually think he's a insulin-injecting diabetic, if I remember correctly, and he's on some other medications. He has a general diffuse thinning, older guy who had a full head of long hair, but general diffuse thinning. And this influencer doctor made some reasonable suggestions, but then suggested that he do a small transplant in the center, the top of his scalp, to provide him some more density. The guy wears his hair parted in the middle. Some guy from the 70s. He's like maybe 69 years old now, or 68. He suggested, speaking to his physicians about taking, the protocol medication. Guys, hold on, I'll take your call. Maybe getting an oral minoxidil, finasteride, whatever it is. But then still suggested a hair transplant. And I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, how is this real? Because I know he trained with someone who at least knows the industry and has been around for a long time and probably advised him about certain things. I do not believe that this older gentleman, who's a physician himself, is a candidate for hair transplant surgery. And it's very possible that if he did well on these other medications and got his medical conditions under control and maybe were able to kind of, work on his diet and his insulin resistance and his diabetes, remove some medications that he's taking that are probably causing his hair loss as well, and then get on medications that helped his hair loss, he may grow all his hair back. Because he has the entire outline of a diffuse thinner for an older guy,
Yeah.
and he recommends that he would do a hair transplant.
Medication works best on those guys.
But besides medication, he recommended a small transplant as well. And I'm just like, shit. And not that this is a bad person. I mean, he must believe this. This must be the way he's practicing medicine. He must think that it's going to benefit this patient. But it's just hard for me to... Honestly, I think I dodged a bullet with this person, to be honest with you.
I think you're right.
You know? Guys, hold on. We'll take a call in a second.
And what kills me about this person, I know who you're talking about, they seem to think that it's a bad idea to be promoting surgery as a last result and every option before surgery when possible.
How do you know that? Did he say that?
There was discussion behind the scenes that I was made privy to, where this particular person disagreed with that particular message.
Oh, with our message.
Yeah, with our message.
I actually heard some interesting rumblings as well, and I was just like, really?
Yeah, shocking actually.
I'm like, I'm such a nice guy. How can you possibly think this way? But whatever. But I do think that it just really makes you guys have to look at these guys, all of them, with a jaundiced eye. You have to. Because even if this is a reality that this particular physician practices medicine like this and really believes that this will benefit this patient, that's a red flag. That's this isn't a bad guy. This is just what he believes based on a relatively limited experience, less than a decade, from what I understand.
Well under a decade.
And it's like, okay, well, you don't have a medical degree, Kobren. What do you know? It's life experience.
Yeah.
I know the industry. I've been around it basically my entire, all of my adult life. Let's take a call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Spencer. This is Borgi from Germany, from Bremen.
Hey, how are you, brother?
Hey, man.
Hey, I'm fine. Thank you. I wanted to give you an update about my situation.
Okay.
But before that, I have to share a story because I just went out clubbing and I just came home and, man, I just had my second surgery in November, so I have now a quite good full head of hair, or at least it looks like it. And it's such a difference. I see so many Novel 6, Novel 7s in the clubs, and man, the feedback you get from women when you approach them, it's so different.
That's a sad reality. That is just the fact that for whatever reason, society doesn't want to come to terms with or admit. But that's just the truth.
And another thing, I was talking to a woman this night, and I was pointing out there were some bad hair transplants in the club. You could see the plugs and the bad hairline, and she's like, yeah, I see it. And then I told her that I had also hair transplant. She couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And then she admitted to me that when she had her ex-boyfriend, actually, he went bald when they were together. And she told him, man, just shave it. You have like 5 hairs left. And then she said once she saw him completely bald, she was like, oh, my God, this looks really bad. But she told him the opposite. She didn't really tell him, told him. And, the relationships then went kind of broke. Yeah? But she wasn't honest to him. She said she couldn't tell him. And I think this is, in many, many cases, this is the case that, it's like body shaming. You will not really get an 100% honest feedback if you talk to a woman about this, I think.
Well, look, I'm glad she was kind. It's unfortunate that she told you that story, because that's kind of something once you're kind, you should continue that kindness. But it's real. Look, apparently I'm the perfect size. That's for everybody, right, Joe?
Yes.
Right over your head, brother. Right over your head. Anyway,
reading comments.
So listen, women are going to lie to you all the time in general, but that was a kindness that she did for her boyfriend. But it's a true story.
I mean, it's nothing that we could reverse anyway. No, it's too late.
Right.
So yeah, needs to cope with it. Yeah, and about my story, I told you that when I last time called you, I started medication because of you guys, and I considered FUT. And I now, in November, my second FUT surgery with Dr. Mercenou. And I have now around 6,500 grafts, I think. And I'm outstripped after 2 FUT. And I'm kind of happy. Because, I have a bad laxity, so I was like, okay, I'm really outstripped now. Can I have not, as many surgeries as Joe, or, anymore, but it's not possible. But on the other hand, it's 6 months no working out in the upper body, so it's the recovery is really, it's heavy from FUT. Yeah? And the worst part is not being able to, etc. So I'm kind of happy that I'm done with it. So I can relax now a bit and focus on FUE grafts in the future.
Hey, let me ask you. So I'm going to be traveling to Dr. Mercenou's clinic in the next few months, and
awesome.
I've been talking to them about getting some patients together that I can meet. Would you be interested in going back to Schaffhausen?
I think so. When will you visit him?
The initial idea is June. I'd like to do it earlier, but if it's in June, is that something that you might be able to pull off and be on camera?
I would do that, but I would need to have some maybe I don't know, flight compensation or something. Because from Bremen, I need to fly down there,
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's a decent trek. Yeah. Well, you can talk to the doctors about it, but it'd be nice.
He's asking for some coin, man. People. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. But pay me.
He's not stupid.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's right.
No, honestly, if you're going to be promoting your doctor, of course you should fly you down.
Of course.
Yeah, why not?
It might be too early though. It might be too early, depending on how your second results coming in.
Put you up in a nice hotel, buy you dinner, drinks, the whole bit.
Yeah, like the Hermels in Turkey. Hey, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do it for just a thumbs up, a post-surgery thumbs up. They'll do it.
Exactly. Like a bunch of dorks.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Okay, so I write Dr. Mercenou an email, right? And I mention you then.
Yes. Of course.
Okay. Yeah. The second surgery went very, very well. I'm kind of very happy with the results. It's not. I need some months before it grows in, but I think I didn't have much shock loss because I use finasteride now. That wasn't the case after the first surgery. And the interesting thing about finasteride is I found, I think, the exactly threshold between side effect and effect. Because when I use topical, the topical finasteride here is quite strong, 0.25%. And if I use it daily, I have problems like the libido goes down and
Well, you found the sweet spot, which is good. Most people, years ago, no one talked about titration of this drug. It was like They claim that only 1 milligram works or whatever. That was never the case. We would talk about it on this program, or even before Joe started to work with me, and I would get calls from doctors saying that doesn't make any sense. And when I would talk about my intermittent therapy, where I was taking one large dose once a week for years, I've had doctors who say, well, you weren't going to progress anyway. And I'm like, this works. Trust me. But now every doctor's talking about titration and intermittent therapy. That's the way it works. It takes like 20 years before these guys get it together.
But for that, I have one question. Do you think it makes a difference? I think you took your 5 milligrams once a week. Do you think it makes a difference if you take 5 milligrams, let's say 1 milligram 5 times a week, or just a 5 milligram tablet, like the same amount, just once a week? Do you think that can make a difference?
Well, here's why I think it can make a difference, but I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I'm just a dope that sits in front, turns on his camera and sits in front of his microphone. But, I started on 5 milligrams. My body was kind of used to it. It always performed well on it. It was fine. I actually was taking 5 milligrams a day. At one point, I went up to 7.5 milligrams a day, believe it or not, early on in my usage of the drug. But over time, as I was learning more about the drug and information was coming out and Propecia was about to be approved, everyone was talking about the effectiveness of 1 milligram compared to 5 milligrams. So I decided to kind of test things out. I slowly backed down my daily dose of 5 milligrams to the point where I started to take 5 milligrams a day, and I felt really good on it. And I'm like, all right, things seem to be holding up. I'm going to continue to do this. One thing that I learned about early on, which is now being written about, is that even though the drug has a short half-life, it takes about 2 to 3 days, depending on the person, between 48 and 72 hours for your DHT levels to start to go down after the drug completely leaves your body. So say I am suppressing 70% of my DHT after I take my dose. By the time I take another dose, I may be suppressing only about 50% or 40%. But having that wave, where your DHT, just like any other hormones like testosterone, having it, kind of go up and down, I think I'm going to use the word 3 times, gave me a protracted success of maintaining my hair most of my hair, a lot of it, not all of it, for so many years, and kept me being able to use the drug with no adverse side effects that I'm aware of, and it still gives me room to use it more. So, to answer your question directly, if you're taking 1 milligram a day, you're keeping your DHT levels at the exact same point, no fluctuation at all. I think there's value in having it kind of take little dips and then be suppressed fully again and then take another dip. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that's also what I'm doing with 3 times a week now. And even if I increase the dosage, I think 3 times a week, I don't know, I can tolerate it better because I know it's also not in my head, because when I take it every day, I get this watery semen-like.
Yeah.
And this is very weak. And if I just 3 times a week, it's sticky, it's normal.
Yeah.
So,
3 times a week, you're shooting ropes again, you're good. And and your hair, and you're able to maintain your hair. So that's the dosage that works for you.
Yeah.
So it's not even anything to think about. You're like, wait a second, I have no side effects and I'm growing hair and keeping hair. You can stay that way for decades possibly. And the good news is you always have room to adapt. Your body may adapt to it to the point where if you do decide to take another dose, you might not have that side effect in 10 years.
That's interesting.
So
yeah, that's really good.
All right, brother.
I'm in a good position.
Well, I'm really glad you're doing well. I'm glad that you are doing well in the clubs again. How old are you?
35.
35. You're getting to the point where you may be a little too old to go to the clubs, though. I'm just saying.
Nah,
younger, it's fine.
I'm just kidding.
It's all about the hair.
I mean, the only clubs I can go to at this point are clubs you walk in and there's women wearing no clothes.
It's over 30 parties. Like
That's the only
people are
that's the only
over 30.
acceptable club at a man my age. If I walk into a club here in Los Angeles, well, it's possible. I mean, if I walk in with like two super young, gold digging, Slavic chicks, then I'd be accepted. So, all right, brother. Listen, good luck. Congratulations.
No stereotyping here.
Yeah, congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call, brother. Take care.
Take care.
Yep. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You have time for one more call, Joe?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey guys, good evening. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. I can't understand you, but I hear you perfectly.
Hello, how are you guys? Everything okay?
We're good. What's your name? Kazumi?
No, my name is Hoy. I'm calling from England. I called a few times, I think, over the years, and I just was in catching up. I just was listening to the show because I'm with my son in the hospital, and I just thought, while you're asleep, when
Your phone, just to let you know, your phone is breaking. Your phone is breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's still breaking up a little bit. Maybe you need to walk into a different area.
It's choppy.
Oh, it's choppy. Sorry, just one moment. Let me see. Just one moment. So sorry, guys.
Sure. All we got
Can
is
you
time,
hear me now?
brother. Say it again.
Now it's better?
Yes.
Now it's better?
Maybe.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
Seems to
thank
be.
you so much
Yeah.
again. I was saying, I've been hearing the show, for some time, but I've been calling here and there, It's just I always like to say, a big thank you for you guys. It was because of you that I started finasteride, and been already taking for 6 years, and it's been amazing.
Wow.
It's just I'm so glad that I could maintain my hair. Although I did 2 hair transplants, one was a repair, was my second one. But it's just I'm so grateful, and now I try to spare awareness to my friends and family. But you know what? It's so difficult now to pass information about a simple drug that can change a guy's life, to maintain hair or not. Yeah. But people are so afraid of side effects, still. Because the propaganda on the internet, and all those side effects and everything. And, when I'm telling them, my experience and everything. But I'm so grateful, it's just, it's just, I know it's some people is vanity, just hair when there's so much important things in the world. But, for me, gives me confidence to grow and to go and fight for my goals and everything. And
that's actually very well
I'm
said.
Really proud.
That's why I do what I do. When I started, no one was talking about this, and I got so much not even from the press that I got. I mean, reporters and people who wrote about me, they made it like it was like what I was doing was just fluff. They were interested, and that's why they wanted to cover it, but there was always some sort of a joke or a jab until it happens to them. Hair loss is a disease of the spirit. And if you can get over it, and shave your head and move on and still have a successful, happy life, then that's great. But a lot of people can't. And if they have options to at least hold on for a longer period of time, why not present those options and tell them the truth about them? That's always been my thought process.
Exactly. And Spencer, I have another brother. He's a younger brother. But me and my brother, we saw my father losing his hair. Start losing, I think it was when he was in his 30s. And now he's 63. And, he still he keeps the hair on the sides. Yeah. But it doesn't have any hair on the top, it's kind of old school, like they still want to maintain what they have. even though it's nothing. And, sometimes, in the beginning, I was seeing the frustration on him. He was trying with the shampoos and everything back in the days. But, now, I look at him and I see possibly you'll be a different man with different life approach, in some situations, if you just could hold some of your hair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
he would be. There's no doubt.
it's
It's something that people don't want to admit. And there are going to be people out there, these bro guys online, that are going to be like, oh, you guys are man up. What's the big deal? And even talking about this is ridiculous. Trust me, there are people whose lives have been shattered. Different men. They are different men because of their hair loss. And so I understand when young guys want to rush off to Turkey to get a hair transplant. I understand it all. My job is to help to keep these guys safe and express that I understand what they're going through. It sucks. It sucks at my age. I'm almost your dad's age. And, I would be a different man, and my hair's a sham. I mean, I got to do, this is exhausting to make look this way every day. But you know what? I feel very fortunate that I can.
To have, yes, and reaching the age you are, that you're still young and you still look young with the hair that you have, is quite outstanding, to be honest, because people can say, oh, you put the spray, you put this and that, but you maintain your hair, most of the hair, and this is amazing. We just with one tablet, and one thing.
Well, I got to correct you because people out there are going to be like, this guy's conning everybody. I don't have most of my hair. I have a lot. I saved a lot of hair, a lot, but it's still, when I don't dummy it up, it's I'm like a clown. But thank you.
But you still have it. You know what I mean? And I want to say as well, of course, early intervention is a start of keeping your hair for longer. And me having two boys, you guys as well provided me with something that I can help my boys later in life when they have like 18 or more older. If they come to me, oh, I'm losing my hair, what should I do? And I can say, look, I started this work when I was younger, and this helped me to maintain my hair. Hair transplant is the last alternative, because even in a good hands, even the best of the best doctors, there is always one case that goes wrong, and it's true. And, try this medication, hold as much you can, change your diet in this, at least as well, you guys give me that, that information, and, I'm glad for that, because I can pass that to my kids and knowing that they're not going to suffer, or possibly I'll try to avoid that suffering.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that, and I appreciate you calling to let us know. At least we know there's some people that don't think that, I'm a waste of time on this earth. Right, Joe?
No,
Exactly.
no.
Here.
No, you are not. And one good message that I want to leave as well, and you guys always say, even on the best hands, mistakes happen, bad results happen. It's true, because, I am a nurse. I am a nurse in England, and I don't trust in the doctors here. I saw so many mistakes, and my son as well. This is just one thing, just to finish, really. He's in hospital now in England. He's being misdiagnosed so many times. He lost his vision because
who's this?
Appropriate treatment. My son.
Your son?
My son, is in hospital because he was misdiagnosed as well. I want to say that don't trust in any doctor, think for yourself. There's mistakes that always happen, even on a good hand.
What happened to your son? Do you want to share that?
Yeah, if you guys have time. So basically, I am a nurse. I've been working for 15 years. I'm Portuguese, but I work in England. And this is very, it's very, for me, it's really upset talking about this. I'm really, I don't know what to say, on November, I noticed one of his eyes was moving to the corner, and I took him here to the local hospital. Mm. They did the MRI and everything. They found out he had some fluids on the back of the eye. And they start 5 doses of steroids, and just after the 5 doses of steroids, they did a lumbar puncture. Should be done before, and I was fighting for that. So they changed all the results already. And they transfer him for a local hospital near to us here that specialized in neuropediatric cases. So he went to the hospital not seeing from the left eye. And while in this hospital, they thought he had autoimmune condition. It was getting worse. They done like plasma therapy and everything, hemoglobin therapy, thinking that was autoimmune. They did genetic testing, myself and my wife, and everything, and there was no resolution. It was getting worse. Even the mobility started getting affected. So what I done, they discharged him. I took him to my country, to Portugal. He was admitted there for 2 weeks. He had all the tests possible, and they sent us back here with antibiotics, waiting for the test. And guess what, Spencer?
What?
He has a bacterial infection called Brucella.
Ah.
Wow.
Okay.
And they were
wow. How did he catch it?
Yeah. I don't know. They say this is from unpasteurized milk. We don't drink that unpasteurized cheese, or even if any insect or bug can bite you or something like that. But the alarming thing is, any of the doctors apologized for him. Any. There was a professor that saw him here the first time he was here in this hospital, saying to him, I have 20 years of experience. I know this is autoimmune, and I know you're going to be blind without knowing what the underlying cause.
Jesus
you know what I mean?
Christ. So how is he doing right now?
And from now, the vision is improving slowly. He has an abscess because this treatment he has an abscess on the spine that he needs to have surgery on Monday because of the delayed treatment, because he's becoming incontinent, and they want to take that abscess out. That's very dangerous surgery. And now the doctors, they still didn't apologize to him. They say they give him treatment, although it wasn't the right treatment. This is just past the message. We are not safe. What we can do for the rest of our lives is to eat healthy and to pray for God to not go to the hospital. Even on the best hand, I need to rush my son to Portugal, to another country, for him to have the right diagnosis. Otherwise, you'll still be here. You'll still be here blind, possibly. You'll be completely blind with no chance to cure because they didn't give any antibiotics. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you and your family had to go through that.
That's terrible.
But you should be proud of yourself, you and your wife, who, you took things into your own hands and you got your kid to your country and you were able to get a accurate diagnosis. Most people wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
No, and they were trying to disqualify Portugal because we did these tests, trying to disqualify because the fault was this, was that. I just want to say we are not safe, even in the good hands. Even in a good hands. Doesn't matter if you're a professor, if you have many years of experience, like the hair transplant. Doesn't matter. In a bad day, you're going to be a bad patient.
Well, I particularly think that your country has some of the worst medical care, period.
In England, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, and they think they're the best.
Yeah.
They don't own it. They don't want to improve it, and they think they are the best. Is what I came across because I am a nurse and I know what I'm talking.
Yeah.
They don't want to improve. They don't want to learn from others. If I don't know something, I say I don't know. I'm gonna study. I want to improve. Show me, to teach me how to improve. But here they think they're the best.
And as political and as pompous as some physicians can be here in the U.S., your culture, the culture in England, these guys in general, not everybody, these are assholes.
Don't let Harry Keemers hear you guys saying this.
Well, listen, brother, I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing that story, but I'm so sorry that your son...
Thank you so much. I do apologize.
By the way, I'm going to England next month, so please don't arrest me when I land because of the conversations going on here. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, dude, you have to check your Twitter account first, though, before you go there.
Yeah, exactly. Clean that
Here
out.
we cannot talk. Here
I know,
we
right?
cannot talk. There is always a complaint or something like that. We are not free of speech here.
I don't know.
I
Maybe the West,
It's
maybe
ridiculous.
the entire West may be changing. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
But
We'll
just
see.
to finish the conversation, this is going to be a big lawsuit. I'm going to sue the hospital. I'm going to sue all the neurologic team for this to not happen to other kids.
Well, good. And maybe you could send me a check for helping you out.
Good luck with that.
Now, listen, brother, I wish
well.
you and your family the best of luck. You should be proud of yourself for what
100%.
what you did for your son.
That's amazing.
Most parents wouldn't have had the wherewithal to do what you did. So I'm glad that worked
I
out.
don't stop. It's family.
I understand.
Family,
Yeah.
For family, I do
100%.
everything.
Yeah. Well
All
said.
right, brother. Well, good
Thank you so
luck.
much.
I wish you and your family and your son the best of luck and good health.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.
We're going to close the show off on that note, man. You think you have problems. And you do. But,
I think you have problems. But it's not an undiagnosed bacterial eye issue.
It's interesting because that's pretty. I mean, usually the raw milk and cheese here in the U.S. that's like not happening to people, but it comes from that stuff.
It does, but what gets me is like why go immediately to the autoimmune issue? Why not look at the basics like bacterial infection? Like that's a very superficial investigation compared to trying to diagnose an autoimmune issue.
Yeah. I don't understand it. Honestly, I've had issues. I've had to make my own way, and I don't think I've ever had, except for one doctor, a direct positive type of experience where they were like, yeah, this is what it is. I think you can be helped out with this. There's always a runaround nonsense. They don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't know what the fuck is really going on. And, that's just the way it is. Don't get sick, people.
Don't get sick. Don't get sick.
Because they'll kill you.
I feel so thankful. Like when I was in my early 20s, I had a really nice Yamaha street bike, and every time I would just gun it and just like take off like a bat out of hell, I get this searing pain. Not every time, but like a few times, I get this searing pain in a very specific spot of my head. Like it felt like a hot poker just being stuck in. It was really bad. And if I hadn't gone to my regular doctor, if I'd gone to a different doctor, they might have cut my head open trying to figure out what was going on. But he immediately understood what it was, like some sort of.
It's like there's a spike in your helmet, dummy.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the railroad tie that got slammed in your head. But no, it's just it got cleared up with it was some sort of calcium issue with in my blood, to where a vessel was closing off and then opening up suddenly because of the rush.
Yeah.
And it was just a short-term treatment with some pills and done. Haven't been affected since. But I think of that, and it's like, what if I gone to the wrong doctor? And he's like, oh, well, let's just go in there and have a look.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's scary as hell.
Hopefully AI, maybe guys like Elon, some other people who are involved could help cure a lot of things.
His good buddy Sam. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, good show.
Put these guys out of business.
Yeah, I hope so. That'd be nice.
All right, brother. Good show. Guys, follow Joe on Instagram. What's your Instagram, Joe?
Joe Tillman Official.
You can follow me at Spencer Kobren. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.